So good afternoon and welcome to your class in CPT 3 Fundamentals of Crop Science. So at this point, we are now on the day 11 of our class, which is under Unit 4, Production Practices. So we will now be continue discussing on the chapter on planting. And last time we have discussed on sexual reproduction of flower and so please check on the previous video that I have posted for the sexual reproduction of flowers, wherein we discuss on the different sexual and natural method of propagation in flower that includes breeding, and also we talk about the different seed quality and characteristics and seed classes, seed performance, and on seed preparation for annuals. And so to continue with our discussion, we're going to talk about seed germination. So how do you define seed germination? So in a seed physiologist definition, is just the emergence of the radical, and we know from the previous discussion that we have on the video that you have seen that the radicals is the one that is formed into roots, and the emergence of the seedling through the soil is what we usually know about seed germination in a grower's point and agriculturist points of view. So once the seedling emerge from the soil, it's called seed germination. So in order to facilitate this process about seed germination, there are requirements to do that. We have it should have a moisture content of greater than 40%, and oxygen, of course, and a favorable temperature of 32°F for cool season crops, and even higher than 59°F from warm season crops. And it doesn't really generally for plants doesn't need light to germinate, but in case of lettuce, they actually need light for germination in order to activate the germination process. So let's take a look on the seed structure. So we have two types of seed. They are monocots and dicots. So if, of course, the monocots have only one cotyledons as shown on the figure here, and the dicots have two cotyledons, and you will see the different, of course, you know the different examples of these monocots and dicots. So the main parts which are composed of the seed coat, the cotyledon, and the epicotyl and the radicle or hypocotyl in case of dicot. And we also have the energy source, which is the endosperm, or the seed coat, or the cotyledon in dicots. So basically, they have the same structure, the same parts, but it's just that the number of cotyledons differ. So this is how the seed germination occur in an epigeous. When I say epigeous germination, the hypocotyl is raised above the ground. But when we say hypogeous germination, the hypocotyl remains below the ground. So example is the garden pea. When it grows, the cotyledon is raised, as well as the hypocotyl is raised above the ground. And also we have for hypogeous, the pea and the corn, wherein both the hypocotyl and the cotyledon are left below the ground. So there are actually three stages of seed germination. We have the imbibition stage by water, and the metabolic process wherein the the true seed germination occur, and lastly, the radical emergence. So these are the three stages of seed germination. So for example, this is how to explain the seed germination. Once on the stage one, once the water once the water is imbibed, or the seeds absorb the water, and it activates the the embryo for the production of the gibberellic acid 3, wherein this is the hormone that is responsible for translating DNA and RNA to activate the amylases, which are responsible for the degradation of starch into sugar, wherein they make use of this sugar for the growth of the radical and the epicotyl. So this is the it's also where in this aleurone cells wherein the hydrolysis occur, and J3 is being activated through transcription and translation. And in the case of the lettuce seed germination, where there is what we call photoactivation of DNA by the phytochrome, which is when the light at 660 nanometer is converted to phytochrome far red, and during dark at 730 nanometer, it is reversibly converted to phytochrome red. So, hi Oliver. We are discussing. Hi Oliver.
Afternoon, ma'am.
I just started class, and we are now on the continuation because last time you were not around, right?
Wala, ma'am, kaya nag-meeting mi atong yagi. O kasulod.
So si ano naman ang kausap ko last time, si
Okay, ma'am.
so
Pila may kabakron, ma'am?
so bear with me. So this is to continue on our discussion. So you can watch the previous video kasi this is continuation on the under the chapter planting. And last time we talked about sexual reproduction, and now we are on seed germination. So I just explained to continue, how is the lettuce seed germination occur with the activation of the light, or we call it photoactivation. So in this point, the storage protein is hydrolyzed into amino acids during the DNA and RNA translation. So Jesse's here. Sorry, I just started ahead of time because I'm not sure if all of you are coming. So it's good to see you this in this session. So as I have said earlier, all of the plants, there are different factors that affects the germination, and one of it is the first stage is water, the water content or the moisture content, and we have the presence of oxygen, and also and and some, although it's not really necessary, but in general crops, but in lettuce, it needs light for germination. It's only for some particular crop like lettuce, which needs light in order to photoactivate the DNA and RNA transcription and translation. So this is what happened in the seed germination in a normal, again, in a normal barley seed germination. So we have the three stages. So before the radical emerge, or the roots emerge, as well as the epicotyl and which becomes the shoots of the seeds. So it needs to have the water imbibition, and after water is being absorbed, that is that activates the hormones gibberellic acids, which in the allelone cells, which involved in hydrolysis. So that is the cells found in the endosperm, and inside the endosperm it is where the metabolic process happens. So once the GA activates the DNA, is transcribed into RNA and translated into amylases. These are the enzymes that capable of degrading starches into sugar, which is then eventually used by the epithelial and the radicle. That's why, and this is in the embryo part. So it's why the shoots emerge as well as the roots emerge from this. So this is for barley seed germination. And in the case of lettuce, it needs light in order to photoactivate, wherein the phytochrome far red is converted to phytochrome red during dark and light. This is called phytochrome photoreversibility. So I hope you just have grasped of the steps, no? So in short, the steps includes the water imbibition, then the metabolic process. So this is exactly the metabolic process and that's how radical emerge. So do you have any question regarding the seed germination metabolic process? I know it's very technical, but you can come across of it a lot of times when you go higher stage, no? Especially in physiology. So do you have any question regarding, I hope you identify what is the difference between barley seed germination compared to lettuce seed germination. Yes, Oliver, anong kaibahan sa barley at sa lettuce?
Barley at lettuce, ma'am. Wala po ko kakuha ng kuan, ma'am, sa barley. Wala po ka familiarize anang barley.
So again, I will tell you again that this is the seed germination metabolic process inside, what is happening inside the seed. In the case of barley, it goes with the usual among other plants. Tanang plants do not need light, no? In order to germinate. That's why ginatabunan lang nato siya sa soil or sa room
Sa
temperature.
soil.
Yes, because it doesn't need really light. But in the case of lettuce, again, it needs light in order to germinate because of photoactivation. Kailangan niya ng far red light, which is converted to phytochrome red, at saka converted again to phytochrome far red para ma-activate yung kanyang DNA and RNA, at saka para ma-produce yung amylase, yung enzyme na responsible for degrading the endosperm. And once the endosperm produce sugar, then it will make the embryo grow. No? So, lalabas na doon yung epithelial and radicle. So, yun ang main na kaibahan ng barley and other crops and lettuce. So lettuce needs light unlike the other rest of the crops. So I hope you
Okay,
get
ma'am.
it.
Okay, ma'am.
So
Yes, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
so this is a very cute list of, these are the list of different crops with their minimum percent germination and their germination requirements from minimum, optimum, and maximum. When we say optimum, ito yung ideal talaga na temperature na kailangan ng crops in order to germinate. And usually, meron siyang mga percent germination like asparagus, ang kanyang capability ay nasa 60% germination. So, ang pinakamataas lang ata dito ay 80% of some of the crops like peas and turnips, and the rest are which goes down to 40%, like the spinach. So, and their days of germination requires like 10 up to 10 days. So, ang pinakamabilis lang dito actually on the list, based on this list, nasa 3 days like the sweet corn, no, and turnip. But for a mung bean, it's not on the list, but you can all when you soak mung bean or mongo seeds in water.
Ang lettuce, ma'am, 2 days lang.
So as early as that. But for some crops, it can even up to 13 days to 14 days, no, 2 weeks germination. So that is just to give you an insight of the different crops, no, and their temperature ranges. When we say maximum, it means beyond. Sobra pa ang temperature, which is 95. Can you imagine? I mean, we're not so familiar of degree Fahrenheit. Usually, degree Celsius yung ginagamit natin. So, usually, ang pinakamataas lang in terms of Celsius dito is nasa 40 degrees, no? And of course, in Philippines, sometimes we do have 40 degrees Celsius. So, it will also, more than that, it will also hinder the germination of crops. And also, meron tayong minimum, meaning yun lang pinakamalamig, no? So, up to 2 degrees Celsius. Napakalamig na niyan when you are on the highlands. So, the next table is to show you hanggang kailan pwede natin ma-store ang mga different vegetable seeds. So, we have different types of seeds which will be discussed further. Yes, these are the seed types of seeds. So, you will determine kung ang vegetables, anong klaseng seeds sila. So, usually, all of the vegetables are under orthodox, which we will discuss later. So, in terms of average lifespan, the different vegetables usually aabot sila hanggang more than 10 years, no, actually. So, yung pinaka mabilis lang ay yung corn, 4 years. Then, and also parsnip. And then the rest, aabot siya more than 10 years. But if you're going to assess its good germination, so usually nasa 2 to 3 to 5 years ang kanyang validity for it to germinate, highest germination, no, maximum germination capacity. So, to enumerate further, these are the length of times that the seeds can retain their vitality. No, for the group of na mga 5 years are watermelon, eggplant, cucumber, and so on. 4 years, 3, 2, and the shortest ones are the sweet corn, parsnips, and onions. So this is just to show you what the Brassica oleracea looks like. So have you seen this before? It's called the Brussels sprouts. Kita na mo, ani? Jessie?
Wala pa ako kanan mo. Wala ko kita na mo.
So this comes from Belgium, of course, and
Wala, ma'am. Ay.
it's available in the Philippines through supermarkets. So, but it's not advisable during this time kasi dili ta pwedeng maglaglaag. Sikto na kayang Davao, no? Na naman yung mga QR, pass.
Tama naman, ma'am. Pati dire, ma'am. Distrito
Kamot,
kayo.
ma'am. Magkuha.
Nanay mga bantay dire, ma'am.
So, puyo.
Hindi na basta makaragawas.
Puyo sa paan. Hopefully, this is actually taste bitter because I tasted this one when I went to Europe. So, mapait siya but it's just the same na maliliit lang ng mga cabbages, no? And it's really weird, but they use this for salads. So moving on, these are also the seed moisture content requirement of each vegetables listed here. So nasa 5 to 7% seed moisture kailangan yung mga vegetables. So here we go. We have the seed types and based on their storage capacities. So we have orthodox, recalcitrant, and the intermediate. So when you say orthodox, nasa 5 to 10% ang kanyang moisture content. And this can be stored longer, even forever, no? most vegetables, and also atis, chico, guyabano, passion fruit, tamarind, and coffee. Well, we also have recalcitrant if it is high moisture content, greater than 10%, which cannot be stored longer kasi madaling, kung high moisture content siya, madaling din siyang masira. And we have example, mango, durian, rambutan, mangosteen, lanzones, santo, jackfruit, tea, citrus, rubber, and oil palm. And this is also the reason why they have pre-germination occur. No, yung mostly in recalcitrant, which I guess will be discussed on the next slides, they call vivipary, no? So, have you seen jackfruit na naanay roots when you try to open the fruit? Nanay roots ang iyahang seeds, di ba? And sometimes,
Sa wala mo, wala
wala
po
pa.
kita, ma'am.
And also for mango, but commonly in jackfruit. So there is a physiological reason for that, which will be discussed. And the last is in between orthodox and recalcitrant is the intermediate, no? With high moisture content but can last longer to a year like the citrus, no? Mataas ang kanyang tubig but it can last even a year. So when we speak of seed storage, there are various storage material that is being used, and we have polyethylene and polyester. We also have this laminate, cellophane, cloth, and paper. And among them, this is the percent, in terms of percent germination, ang germination nila, pababa, no? Except for can. So for can, it can maintain the 90% germination longer than 72 months. But for some of the different materials, so hindi bumababa usually yung kanilang as the months go by. So the longer it takes, the germination also percent decreases. So yung pinaka madaling masira ang seed ay nasa paper, then followed by cloth, followed by cellophane. So ito yung mga can, polyethylene, and polyester is the top 3 na the best for seed storage. So the best storage actually is still can, yung mga lata. So, but there is still what do you call that? Powerful seed storage, which we call it the cryogenic storage and liquid nitrogen tanks. This is for long-term storage of seeds for germplasm conservation. And this is a photo in the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture National Seed Storage Laboratory found in Colorado. So although we have in the Philippines, kasi we have seed bank here, especially in the International Rice Research Institute. So they use liquid nitrogen, and I know you are familiar with liquid nitrogen, right? Kabalo mo sa liquid nitrogen. Ginagamit po niya siya sa magganang ice cream para dali on the spot. Kita na mo ng what do you call that? So na ikanang giprito nga ice cream sa kitawa na.
Nasa Rojas, ma'am.
Ano sa kitawa na? Kanang naka-roll nga ice cream that is made of liquid nitrogen.
Ang cotton
Fried ice
candy?
cream.
Cotton
Fried
candy?
ice cream, ma'am.
Dili cotton candy ka na ice cream na siya, rolled ice cream or pan ice cream, what they call it, no, mga basta in just a minute you can make ice cream when you use the liquid nitrogen. It's just a gas, and then when you mix it with something, and although it's kung mapasok ka ni ana if dili ka careful using that, but when you, and even no, in kailangan magkaon ka sa ice cream, kailangan mag-melt na daan sa imuhang sa imuhang mouth. Otherwise, delikado siya for your stomach and internal organs. So, that's cryogenic storage. And even, no, kanang mga sperm gani, like Michael Jackson's sperm, is even stored in cryogenic storage using liquid nitrogen. And this is very common use also in animal science, no? When they preserve the different genetic for reproduction of different animals like bulls, cow, they use the liquid nitrogen in order for the gene bank. So this is what we call as the vivipary. It's called precocious germination, and this happens in what I have said, recalcitrant crops like corn, jackfruit, and cacao. So they are deficient with the hormone abscisic acid. If you know abscisic acid, it is antagonist to GA or gibberellic acid. These are both hormones found in plants. And when it's deficient in abscisic acid, so wala nang antagonist ang gibberellic acid, so excited na kaya siya nga mag-germinate. So this is in the case of the corn. So wala siyang ABA. So ang GA niya mag-enhance na og germination even na naapa siya sa sulod sa fruit, no? So that's vivipary. So we also have the apomixis, asexual seed formation. So we all know that the seed will only form through sexual germination, diba? Last videos we have seen how the sexual germination occur. So meron pa din tayong exemption for that rule. We call it the asexual. The seed is formed, but it is asexual, and that is called apomixis. It means from the Greek apo, away from, and mixes, which means mingling. So it produces viable seeds even without pollination. But this is not true to all. It only happens from specific kind of crops. So meron siyang development of embryos containing the same genetic information as the mother plant, and which are in fact clones, no? In animals, these are called parthenogenesis. So this occur. Although asexual siya, but the same clone of crops produced. So it's a reproductive behavior. Based on reproductive behavior, it can be called obligate apomictic, wherein a plant will reproduce only by asexual reproduction. So like for the lanzones and mangosteen, you thought all the way that the seed comes from sexual reproduction, but it's not, because they are obligate apomictic. They reproduce therefore by asexual reproduction. So meron silang nuclear tissue in the seed. So yung actual na seed ay that's why sometimes in a mangosteen, merong dalawang tutubo as well as lanzones. In one seed, dalawa ang tutubo na seedlings niyan. Kakita na mo, ana? Like this one. Kita na mo, ani, kaning citrus nga. Sa isa ka seed, normally dapat isa lang mana ka shoot sa mugawas, di ba? But in these seeds, like citrus, dalawa ang lalabas niyan. One come from the actual seed germination, and one from the nuclear tissues of the seeds. So these are, on the other hand, called facultative apomictic because they reproduce either sexually or asexually. But in the case of lanzones and mangosteen, it's actually through asexual reproduction, but in the form of seed, kasi meron silang nuclear tissues. So we also have another ambiguousness of plants, which we call parthenocarpy, or they are called seedless fruits. We all know that parthenocarpy can be natural or through GMO, no, or genetic engineering. But most of these plants are already parthenocarpic, which means that they are virgin, and carpus means fruit. Parthenus means virgin and carpus means fruits. or virgin fruit. So they produce fruit na walang fertilization. So ang labas is seedless. So actually the first parthenocarpic fig was grown at least mga 11,200 years ago. So matagal na itong parthenocarpy. So do you have any questions or comments regarding this? Have you heard these words before, apomectic and parthenocarpic? Oliver?
Wala
Oliver?
pa, ma'am.
So it's your
Wala
first.
pa, ma'am.
Anyway, craft science pamanukan niyo. So now we go next to transplanting versus direct seeding. So what is more viable or more recommendable? Is it transplanting or direct seeding? So let's take a look of their differences and their advantages. So for transplanting, it will extend a short growing season for late maturing crops. So that means that of course, if ang schedule mo is like tatanim ka ng April, so before April, magta-transplant ka na. So that's why it will extend their growing season. And it will also improve land use efficiency kasi wala ka ng mga parang the result ng direct field seeding na meron kang mga patay na hindi nag-germinate. So when you transplant, so almost 99% of your crop is insured, no? So you use the land efficiently. And it will also save cost of expensive hybrid seed. So kapag gumamit ka pa ng hybrid seed na binili mo ng 1,000 per sack, like for corn, so if it's hybrid, so kung pero hindi tayo nagta-transplant ng corn, ha? But if you use to transplant a hybrid seed, so mas tipid. And forced crop production for an early market. So if you want to produce earlier, so mapaplano mo siya through transplanting and assure complete stand and crop uniformity. So sabay lahat. Unlike for direct field seeding, most economical siya kasi wala masyadong labor, but yung sa germination niya is hindi kagaya ng transplanting. And another stage that is very important for seed germination and planting is the hardening. It's called acclimatization or adaptation to the harsher field environment by withholding moisture and reducing temperature for 7 to 14 days prior to transplanting. And it will slow or retard seedling growth and allows accumulation of carbohydrates. So it's called hardening. It means you just parang inexpose siya sa init or harsher environment para ready na siya when the actual seedling growth happens. Kasi for the reason na meron na siyang enough carbohydrates that is accumulated. And how do you do that? By not watering it and reducing temperature for about a week, no? Before the transplanting. So there are different planting methods for crops. Usually transplanted kasi hindi lahat ng tanim ay pwedeng i-transplant natin. But most crops like the cabbage, pepper, broccoli, and so on are usually good with transplanted. And usually direct seeded are the melons, bitter gourd, cucumber, and sweet corn, and so on. Kasi, like I've said, hindi tayo nagta-transplant ng sweet corn kasi kahit i-direct seed mo sila, parang adapted na sila, hindi na sila kailangang i-transplant kasi they have efficient germination viability. And the last one are the crops that should be direct seeded and should not be transplanted, like root crops, radish, turnips, and carrots and beets. So the reason for this is they will have fork roots. So I will show you how the fork roots look like. So as you can see here, double, makita ba ni mo, Oliver?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Kita, ma'am.
So this is actually for the consumer, it's not good, no? I don't know, but we're not just used for this crooked or forked roots. So this happens on root crops like radish, turnips. So if they become, kung imo siyang i-transplant, magka-fork roots siya. So you don't want your carrots to look like this because of the consumer preference. So pag once na-disturb yung roots niya, kahit na ilipat-lipat mo lang siya, so it will result to fork roots talaga. So these are the crops that should not be transplanted and only can be direct seeded.
Pero kung matransplant siya, di na yung anak.
No, I mean, dili sila pwede i-transplant kay mag-fork roots sila. Pag once, muna i-direct seeding nimo sila, after, di na nimo siya galawon, no? Okay. Pag once ma-disturb na iyahang root system, magkaroon siya ng fork roots like this. Okay, nakuha?
Mara na hinungdan, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
So, tanang crops pwede i-transplant, kaya, di ba? As we have explained before, transplanting is really more efficient and better. But there are crops na di na kailangan pwede i-transplant. Motong katong melon, sweet corn, cucumber, kay maski pag i-direct seed nimo sila, okay ra sila performance, no? Kung i-compare mo ang transplanting o direct seeding in these crops, pare-pareho lang. So, i-direct seed na lang nyo siya. But there are also crops na dili pwede i-transplant, like this radish and root crops, carrot. Kaya tungod atong fork roots.
Okay, ma'am.
So, usually, it's better when you use seed boxes. So, this is just to show you in some parts of the country, like in Lugo in Spain, na they even use this one, hay, kanang, sige, nasa to kanang rice straw, yes, in order to hasten the germination kasi malamig sa kanila and to increase the temperature. So this is very unusual for us, but in some countries they do this in a greenhouse, no? So the depth of planting also matters when you try to plant seeds, no? If it's too deep, hindi rin like syempre, no? You try to plant seeds that are very small into how many feet or inches below the ground. So it will exhaust its energy reserve before mugawa siya sa soil. And too shallow is not also recommendable because it will not able to reach soil moisture and will dry out and die eventually. So the ruling is that it should not be deeper than 10 times the diameter of the seeds. So ang pinakamaliit na seeds na nakita mo, Oliver, anong seeds?
Ma'am? Ma'am?
So ang pinakagamay na seeds na nakita nimo?
Tapos kuha ka ng liso sa ma'am? Talong, yun, talong. Eggplant, ma'am.
Okay, eggplant. So maliliit na siya, no? Pero mas gamay pagyapon ang petchay ana. So the
Pichay.
it should not be like, if it's like 0.8 is if it's like one centimeter, so 10 times the diameter of the one, so 10 centimeter, therefore kung 10 times, so inana lang pod ka deep ang iyahang ang pagtanom, ang depth, no? So we also have another important note, the epigeal emergence. So when we all know from the previous discussion that epigeal germination is when the cotyledon is raised above the ground. Example for soybean, kung inigtubo sa soybean, makita nimo yung cotyledon sa taas, diba? So that's epigeal emergence. And these are prone to crusting compared to hypogeal emergence like the corn. So when we say hypogeal, low or below the ground, as you have seen yung corn, di ba? Yung kanyang cotyledon mula, dili masaka sa taas. It's just left below the ground. So that's why they are hypogeal. And seeds that are sown deeper in sandy than in clay soil. So kung sandy siya, pwede deeper ang kanyang planting compared sa clay. Kasi pag clay, medyo kanang sticky siya, so di good kayo siya makagawas, no? So you're just imagining the way that the seeds would be able to get out of, you just, as an agriculturist, our role in the seed germination is just to assist all the crops to germinate properly and successfully. So the next topics would be seeding, no? And planting methods for upland crops. So I will skip onto that because I have some videos to show you. Although this is just last time I have shown you about sexual reproduction. Wait lang. Also, sexual reproduction on plant fertilization and pollination. So wala pa tayong so I hope you have checked on the videos kasi pinakita ko doon sa ano. Okay, this is about asexual reproduction.
After winter has thawed, the first flowers of early spring appear. But these plants have not grown from seeds. They have reproduced from bulbs. Bulbs enable plants to reproduce asexually, that is, without producing gametes. Bulbs are known as parinating organs. They allow plants to survive in adverse conditions and then to grow quickly when the time is right. The swollen rhizomes of irises have a similar function, but asexual reproduction does not rely solely on parinating organs. This liverwort can reproduce asexually via gemmae. Gemmae are small discs of green tissue that grow inside special cups. When mature, they break off from the parent plant, often due to the action of raindrops. They scatter away from the parent plant and will eventually grow into new gametophyte plants. Plants like this bryophyllum can also reproduce asexually. Miniature plantlets develop at the edges of its leaves. In time, these will drop off and develop into independent plants. Mature strawberry plants are able to establish new plantlets on the end of long runners. Gardeners are able to cultivate plants asexually via cuttings. This is possible because stem cells like these are able to trigger the formation of root cells and will start to grow roots. The ability of many plants to reproduce asexually helps commercial growers because it's quicker and more reliable than growing plants from seeds. It also ensures growers that quality is consistent. Asexual reproduction is all about exploiting a good niche. In such circumstances, the value of sexual reproduction with its resultant diversity may actually weaken the dominance of an established group. But in a changing environment, diversity means survival.
Okay, so that's all about sexual reproduction because last time we talked about asexual pala because last time we talked about
Kasi,
sexual fertilization, pollination, and sexual reproduction. So next time in continuation to asexual reproduction, we're also going to watch on how to do grafting, budding, and tissue culture techniques. No? So going back, by the way, going back to the video, so what was the last message that the video said? Oliver, do you remember?
ma'am,
Ano yung sinabi doon sa video on the last part?
mas perfect naman tong sa sexual reproduction, ma'am, para ma'am, para ayos ang pagpatubo, ma'am, nga ng good quality ang iyang pag reproduction bitaw, ma'am, sa flowers niya na mga plants.
Yeah. So, although we've been talking a lot about sexual reproduction pa din kasi this is about kasi on the the previous video we talk about the difference between the two. So, and that is just in continuation of the sexual and asexual reproduction, but we will be talking more on the asexual reproduction after this planting methods for upland crafts, which will also be discussed next meeting. So if you have questions regarding seed germination, because we've been talking about seed germination and some planting methods in crops.
Ma'am, mga kaan, may apon ang mga sa seed germination magamit ang mga methods tong Petri dish methods, ragdoll method,
Yes, in seed germination testing.
okay mo.
Yes. So